So to start out with, I thought I would go ahead and do a quick sort of review of what container-based sanitation is. So CBS, the acronym for container-based sanitation, consists of end-to-end service that collects waste hygienically from typically waterless toilets built around sealable, removable containers. This style of fecal sludge management really sort of came into being in its current form within the last decade or so, last 10, 12 years, something like that. Now, moving feces in containers has probably been around as long as we've had feces in containers, so that's nothing new, right? But this style is rather new. And one of the things that it allows for is a lot of resource recovery at the back end, specifically around things like compost, biogas, bio-solid fuel, or protein production, different things like that. The Container-Based Sanitation Alliance is an organization which sort of sprung out of a number of different organizations that were working on this same problem, developing container-based sanitation models in different parts of the world. And they were bumping into each other at conferences in different places, and realized that a lot of these folks were working on similar problems. And so the Container-Based Sanitation Alliance was formed in 2016. Was sort of informally brought together in 2016, really as a way of sharing. One of the primary goals was sharing information and trying to avoid reinventing the wheel over and over again in different places, and seeing if we couldn't accelerate the learnings and the process towards creating a system of sanitation delivery that would have a large impact in a much quicker time than would normally be the rollout period for something like this. So in 2019, the CBSA became an official organization, and in that same year, the WHO and UNICEF, the Joint Monitoring Program, JMP, designated CBS as improved sanitation. And as you can see from this map here, there's a number of organizations that make up the CBS Alliance: Sanima in Peru, Mosan in Guatemala, Soil in Haiti, Clean Team in Ghana, both Sanitation and Sanergy in Kenya, Luwat in Madagascar in the UK, Sanitation First in Europe, or in India. And so these organizations are iterating a lot and coming up with new ways of being more efficient with their delivery mechanisms, better customer service, better products, all of these sorts of things continually. And one of the things that we sort of realized in discussing these topics was that to find information on container-based sanitation was very difficult, not only because there was a lack of a centralized place to go for that information, but because a lot of the information was scattered, some of it in reports, some of it behind paywalls in journals, some of it just in sort of oral talks and in different things like that. So what we wanted to do with the Container-Based Sanitation Implementation Guide was to start to create a centralized sort of text that you could go to when you wanted to start looking into all these different aspects. And so we undertook this project to start to put together this implementation guide. Not that this would be the definitive version of it. This is just the first edition that we released in 2020. And the goal here really is to update this every couple of years with new information. So like Jan said, this is freely available on the CBSA website, and also the link in the FSMA announcement. And the idea here is that over time, as we continue to see innovation, iteration on this model, we will update the Container-Based Sanitation Guide to reflect those changes, to reflect more information, and hopefully continue to enhance what you can find there. The acknowledgements, I think, is an important thing to throw out there, because while my name and Isabella Montgomery, who is on maternity leave from the CBSA currently, helped sort of put all this together, this wouldn't have happened without contributions from each and every one of the organizations that make up the Container-Based Sanitation Alliance. This is really sort of a coalescing of years of implementation knowledge and learnings. And so that's a really important part of that. Now, when I say that we have, sort of constant learnings going on and new things, so I wanted to highlight a couple of things since this guide has come out, things that we're hoping to include in the next version, which, over the next year, we're going to be working on that next edition. A couple of things that have happened since that has come out. One is sort of some insights into scaling CBS. One of the big things that we've been working on at the CBSA is what is it going to take to move container-based sanitation to large scale. So thinking about going from hundreds of thousands of customers to millions of customers around the world. And so some of those aspects that we're looking into are perceptions around CBS as an expensive option, lack of familiarity with the cost structures, expectations that CBS should be fully cost recovering, limited investment capital that are available, those sort of key hurdles to scaling up through financing. And so to tackle that, one of the main things that we've done in recent years has been to work with EY to do a cost effectiveness analysis of a number of the different Container-Based Sanitation Alliance members. So we did this in Haiti, Ghana, Kenya, Peru, and Madagascar. And we used the CACTUS methodology, the climate and cost in urban sanitation methodology that was developed at Leeds University with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we built an extensive like-for-like comparison. You can find this report online as well. But the takeaways basically were that container-based sanitation, when it gets to a large enough scale, can be one of the most cost-effective forms of sanitation. Additionally, what we also found in this research was that the affordability of these larger scale household services or the shared CBS services were meeting the benchmarks for affordability between 3 and 5% of an annual household income. The other aspect that we're really excited about and looking at a lot at the Container-Based Sanitation Alliance is this idea of climate positive sanitation. So if you look at sanitation sector as a whole, approximately 2 to 6% of all global anthropogenic methane is produced by sanitation in the sort of around the world, right? And methane is identified as one of the most powerful warming chemicals. It's about 20 times more powerful than carbon dioxide in warming the climate, which leads us to this issue that if we're trying to scale up sanitation services and technologies and reach SDG Goal 6, we could at the same time be actively making it harder to reach climate action and reduce our impact on the climate. And so this is one of the things that we're very excited about, sort of putting out as much information on as possible. And we've been doing some research around that, some of which we've presented in the last year or two, in which we look at some of the different drivers of what is causing GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions from sanitation services. And these sort of findings were focused primarily on container-based sanitation, but they also extend to other fecal sludge management technologies as well. And learnings can actually be applied there as well. And a lot of this is basically that when we keep feces out of water, we can reduce methane. And then the other thing is the quicker we can process and treat fecal waste, the better we are going to be at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So those are some quick takeaways from that. All right, so what I wanted to do now was sort of shift and bring in Joseph and Cyrus. Joseph is the general manager at Fresh Life operations at Sanergy, and Cyrus is the project lead at Sanitation. And I have a couple of prepared questions that I want to ask both of them to sort of set the table, and then talk about your questions following that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. There we go. And as way of introduction, Cyrus is Sanitation's project lead for the waste to value sanitation system at Sanitation. He leads the implementation and coordination of the entire sanitation system under his leadership at the Kakuma refugee camp. The system collected and treated 250 tons of feces from refugee households and produced over 100 tons of charcoal briquettes. Cyrus has over 5 years of experience working in the humanitarian and development sectors and holds a certificate in leadership and management skills in emergency contexts and project management. So thank you, Cyrus, for being here. And Joseph is in charge of designing and implementing post-sale strategies, which include manufacture, installation, maintenance, and service of sanitation products such as the Fresh Life toilets and the in-home Fresh Fit toilets in Sanergy's network. He also oversees overall customer experience to ensure continued growth and customer retention. He has 15 years of experience in marketing and customer support and operations. Joseph holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Nairobi and a postgraduate diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK and an MBA from the United States International University. So to start out with, this first question I'll send to you, Joseph. So could you describe how operations have changed from when you first began at Sanergy as compared with today?
Thanks, Corey, for having me, and hi everyone. It's good to be here. I think I would say a lot has changed since we started, as I would imagine with any other operation represented here. Some of the things that I would want to highlight is just starting off with the way we were collecting the waste from the CBS facilities out there in the community. Initially, of course, with a small network, we would be able to do this daily and kind of provide that support as and when needed. But as we grew, we moved more to what we call demand-driven collection, which is basically to say our facilities, the so-called Fresh Life toilets, are able to hold up to 100 uses. And so where in cases where this is not optimal, so like you don't have the cartridges as full, we would shift that to from daily to kind of every other collection. So in a way also being able to manage our operations to be more cost efficient as we moved along. So we are now able to service upwards of 4,000 facilities out there, and being able to manage our collection so that we are able to ensure the collection is done, but also optimize on the side of cost. So that's been a big shift for us. And obviously we've been able to communicate the same with our customers and get in touch with them. So for example, if a customer is on every other day collection and for some reason that seems to change because they had an event that probably may have caused the facility to fill up, they would have access to us through phone, and then we'll be able to send somebody to do the collection. The other one that I would highlight is, as we have grown, we've also seen the need to be able to increase access to safe sanitation. So when we started, we were more focusing on entrepreneurs, so people who are running small facilities who will be able to access our toilets and put them as pay-per-use in some of these more high density concentrated areas like markets, so that then people can have access to the same. Now we realize that for us to be able to provide 24-hour around the clock access to the sanitation, then we needed to put these facilities where people live. So within plots in the communities, in the urban informal settlements. So that's been our focus. We've now more concentrated on getting our facilities in where people live, as well as we've also come up with an in-home kind of facility that can be purchased or can be acquired by individuals to actually be able to use at the household level. As we speak now, we have upwards of 70% of our facilities are actually concentrated within residential areas. So people have access 24 hours in a day to sanitation. The third and last one is just in terms of deployment of technology in managing our operations. We have quite a high ownership of mobile phones within Kenya. So you find every household either has a phone or has access to a phone. So we've kind of leveraged this to be able to, number one, manage our connections. So each of our collectors have access to a phone. So we have developed an Android-based app that is able to use to be used to manage collections. So creating visibility when a collector goes out there to do collections, then we are able to use the app to scan onto QR codes that are pasted on these facilities, and that gives visibility to the operations through our CRM. And so helping in terms of improving customer experience so that we're able to know if we have scheduled X number of collections by the end of the day, then we know how many have been collected, and if not how we can be able to address that. The other one is also just creating a platform for customers to reach out to us, a mobile-based USSD platform. It enables customers to, number one, make payments for the facilities, as well as reach out to us with any issues as and when they have those issues. So these are some of the changes that we've been able to apply. And we've also realized a lot of improvement, especially on operational efficiency for our facilities. Back to you, Corey.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Cyrus, could you answer the same question? How have your operations changed from when you started to now?
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, a lot has changed, definitely, since 2013, when Sanitation began its operation. I'll touch mainly regards to one, toilet designs, and looking at the designs that we began with it. So we had this metal, what we call blue box, that was made out of wood, that had, we collected urine from the toilet itself. But when we moved to Kakuma, the context was a bit different. So we had to change the design for the toilet and have more permanent CBS, whereby it was made of concrete. Now we are looking at now having a higher toilet, like above the ground toilet, whereby now we have the collecting bucket underneath the toilet. And this really has been necessitated in terms of helping in collection. And for us, I'll say, as we began with the household provision for these toilets, we kind of learned a lot of things, and we had to stop some of these toilets, especially in our operation in Naivasha. So what happened is that because there was a lack of demand for home CBS, and this was because of due to high demand of free shared toilet services. In Kakuma, the same, we had to stop the household CBS, mainly because we could not obtain the procurement from UNHCR, basically for the toilets and for the fuel that we were producing. However, one of the key lessons that we learned in Kakuma is that the CBS price competitive with compared to the pit latrine over the tape. Without the same idea, what we are currently doing now, we are working with the different government, the county governments, like in case we are working with GIA, just to help them with them to manage their bucket toilets. For over 100 years, the county has been operating with a bucket. So we are helping them put the system in place. And this will include route optimization, collection system, and also just tracking the buckets and just to ensuring minimum spillage from collection to the transportation and disposal. So I'll say we've seen a lot change in the CBS, but one thing is for sure that the demand is there and a lot of people are really embracing the aspect of CBS. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. Yeah. And I guess, you know, as a follow-up question to that, can you identify a couple things that have remained constant throughout? You know, a lot has changed, but what things have remained like sort of the constant throughout that time period? Let's start with you, Cyrus, because you
It's a very difficult question, Corey. For the last few, something that has remained constant. Well, I'll say the basic concept of collection has remained the same. However, when we look at the bucket that we are using, right? So we have tried to, as much as possible, to have the same 20-liter bucket in our collection. And this basically really helps in terms of the collectors, so that at least it's light, and aspect of emptying is a bit simplified, irrespective of the demand. However, it's difficult. Like, I think for me, it's more of the times for collections. Also, we try as much as possible to have the same twice a week, which we have tried as much as possible to make it constant, and really looking at how can we be able to ensure the efficiency of the CBS. So I'll say those two things I've tried to remain constant, but still there's some changes here and there that we always need to improve. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Joseph, the same question for you. What's remained constant for you all?
I'll talk about the payment method. I think from the inception of our services way back in 2011, we have used mobile money through and through. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with M-Pesa, which is kind of very dominant in this part of the world. We haven't handled cash at all. And that has been very helpful for us in terms of just keeping customer records and ensuring that we have proper management of the payments that come through. So that's been a big one for us. And I think we've also been able to integrate, as I said, with the USSD platform, in which customers can actually go through that platform and actually make payments through the mobile money payment system. So that's been a big one. I think the other one that I would want to highlight, just with regards to collection adherence. So we've actually been able to maintain adherence to our collection schedules almost to 100%. So which is to say, whether someone is on daily collection or every other day, we've been able to keep that through. And that has really helped us, especially in creating confidence among the community and the customer base, that we are able to adhere to the standards that we've set, and also helped us in terms of expansion as we have moved to other areas as well. So those would be the two main aspects.
Excellent. So when it comes to identifying, testing, and implementing changes in your operation, how do you go about that process, right? So you have implemented, both organizations have implemented a ton of changes over that time process, but what's sort of your process for implementing those changes, testing it, making sure that they're the changes you want to make? Let's start with you, Joseph.
Yeah, good question. And I think I would say that research is a very, very big part of what we do, from the perspective of understanding what it is that customers need, and being able then to feed that back to product development, ideation, and making sure that we have the right solution for our customers. So if I can take the example of our standard CBS facility, which is a Fresh Life toilet, we've gone through a number of iterations based on customer feedback, just so that we're able to address the concerns and also make sure that our facility is able to meet the requirements of our customers. So in terms of research, I'm talking about both quantitative and qualitative. So starting off with customer sessions, focus group discussions, as well as our field teams who have been very resourceful in terms of just providing ideas and information in terms of what's happening out there. And then in as far as testing is concerned, yeah, a lot of experimentation and ideation out there at smaller scale, just to be able to understand if an intervention or a concept is going to work or how it's going to play out, and being able to ideate and make changes as necessary. When it comes to implementation, I think one of the things I would want to highlight here is it's critical to start with a pilot, sort of bigger version of the experiment before you actually roll this out to the rest of the market, and this gives you room for improvements, and also an opportunity to understand how an idea would pan out once you roll out, so that you can be able to make changes and adapt as necessary. So that's something that we've been able to do many times, and it's given us good visibility into what needs to change, what needs to be adapted, so that when you put out a product or a service out there, then it's going to have wide adoption to the rest of the community. Back to you, Corey.
Excellent, thank you. And Cyrus, the same question for you.
Yeah, so I'll just echo what Joseph had mentioned. I think we spend a lot of time research, so we have a technical team that leads in this, as well as we have a specialized team whom we call the quality control team, who really their work is to be able to collect this feedback from the toilet users. And most of the changes that we improve on basically is led mostly by the feedback that we get from the customers and other relevant stakeholders whom are key and part and parcel of this process. In testing, I'll say a lot of time we spend in doing a lot of pilots and trying to test and getting also a lot of feedback from the users. And this really helps a lot in terms of coming up with a model that will be accepted, because one of the key things that drives us is acceptability by users. So every thing and every toilet that we bring about also have to be the customer's feedback has to be incorporated. And even during implementation, we still do some data collection for about 6 months, just to be able to ensure that yes, this is right now before we go fully fledged. Back to you, Connie.
Thank you. Yeah. So now is sort of our final question before we open it up to questions from everyone. Sort of looking forward, what changes that are you excited that you can discuss, obviously, but what changes are you most excited to be implementing in the future? What sorts of things would you like to see happen? Cyrus, do you want to start?
Yeah, and as they say, future is always here with us, right? So for us, I think we are really looking at this concept of having CBS at health facilities, right? It's an idea that we feel like it's right at the time right now, because we feel there's a lot of pressure for the health facilities, especially those level 1, 2, 3 that are they don't have connect with the sewerage, and they have these challenges of managing the waste. They don't have even the exhauster for emptying their septic tanks. So we are really looking and working with other facilities, health facilities, just to be able to come up with a design that will be able to not only contain, but also empty at the same time, dispose safely. And here we are looking at more of thermal treatment, but we are looking at having more of an incineration rather than a reuse component at the health facility, just to be able to ensure that the waste is managed well. So for us, really looking at how can we be able to develop the capacity for the health facility so that they can be able to have CBS run as part and parcel of the operation at the health facilities. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And Joseph, how about for you?
Yeah, one of our big goals is around scaling our operations so that we are able to serve more people with our services that we currently offer. And obviously, to be able to do that, we need to look at the cost so that we're able to do that in a cost-efficient manner. And so a big thing that we are piloting around that is to see how we can be able to mechanize our operations, just so that we can be able to do much more with what we already have. So the way we do our collection right now, we use push carts. So the containers are loaded onto push carts and they're able to navigate through the community. Obviously, that takes quite some bit of time because the workmen have to push this through. And so we are thinking through in terms of how do we improve this in terms of having more kind of motorable transport that will be able to number one, carry more, and number two, move a little faster so that we can be able to service more facilities. So looking forward to moving this from about 35, 40 collections per workman to about 100, which means then we can be able to reach more people in a more cost efficient manner. So about scaling our operations and doing so in a more cost effective way.
Excellent, thank you. So now I would encourage anyone that has questions, please pop those into the chat and we'll try and answer those, myself, Cyrus, and Joseph. And while we're waiting for questions, one thing I would sort of add on to the discussion that we've had, right, is that a lot of the CBSA members, pretty much all of us, look at CBS as a part of a citywide inclusive sanitation model, right? That when you look at fecal sludge management, water-based sanitation, container-based sanitation sort of fits in there as one of the pieces, a tool in a suite of tools for tackling citywide inclusive sanitation. And so it's not necessarily that CBS is in direct competition with other technologies, but is a piece of a greater whole, right? That where it's most appropriate, it's used, and where something else makes sense, another technology is used, much like Cyrus was noting in Naivasha, where the predominant the freely available public toilets was what people were really using, and so it didn't make sense to continue to be working in that location and shifting to where it makes more sense. And so, when we think about container-based sanitation, we want to think about it in that context of that larger citywide inclusive model. There's a couple questions here. Let me see if I can go ahead and this is from Evans. Is there any system that helps collect information with regards to households serviced and volumes collected? Joseph and Cyrus, do you want to take that question? How do you collect information with regards to households serviced and volumes collected?
Yeah, I can go first. So in terms of household serviced, so we have a database of all the households that we service through the facilities that we have. So as I said, we've shifted more into getting our facilities in plots where people live. So we'll have a database of the landlords that own these facilities, and also being able to estimate, like on average, how many people would be using a facility at any given day. So we do have that set of data that's available, and we do use that for our operations. Just remember the second part of that question.
Yeah, it was asking about volumes collected.
Volumes.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, once we do collection, we do waste weighing. So we do have the data around, like, how many tons of waste we are able to collect to remove from the community on a daily basis. So that's also data that we have access to.
And
Yeah.
Cyrus?
Yeah, I think I'll speak about the volume. So I think for us, what we do as the waste collected from specific toilets. So we, even before the treatment, you only always have to weigh just to be able to understand the volume of that. So yeah, there is also application that also can be used to track that over a period of time.
Excellent, thank you. And from Felipe, we have, thank you for your presentation. You talk about the importance of making pilots. What is the relevant size of a pilot to test a CBS model, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, so I'll say in terms of pilot, really depends on really what you're doing. I'll talk for a case whereby when we were coming up with a new design in Kakuma refugees to be able to add, and we really looked at, we took a sample size of around 20 households, whereby we came up with a new model, and we had to provide this new model to the toilet, to these 5 households, and we were able to collect data of a period of around 2 months. So again, I think it just depends on who your target users are. If they are on the in a confined place, then the better. Then easy to collect the data, because that is the key reason why you're doing pilot.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that the diversity of your target market. So that if you have a market that is very diverse, you might want to make sure that all the different aspects are included. But if you have more of a homogeneous target market, probably then a smaller pilot would still be useful.
Excellent, thank you. The next question comes from Enrico. He's wondering about enabling conditions at the institutional and regulatory level. What kinds of institutional support is required to support CBS solutions?
I think for us, government is very key at different levels. So for our case here, whether you're talking about the national government that is more policy, or the lower government at the county, municipal level that looks at more of implementation, I think number one, getting the buy-in in terms of support for the kind of work that we do is critical to successful implementation, because you want to make sure that the various government operators at different levels are providing the support that you need to be able to operate. So whether this is in terms of working with the health department, or even the county operations department, to ensure that you get the support to be able to put in these facilities out there, especially the shared ones. And also the other challenge that you realize with the informal settlements is the whole question of land ownership, which poses quite a bit of challenges. So most people will not have ownership to land. They will have some form of access to land that is granted by government authorities. So working with the governments at different levels to make sure that you have the necessary approvals to be able to support the landlords or other customers be able to put these facilities out there. So critical for government support.
Yeah, and I think I'll add, yeah, government is key. And I think also the water service providers and the utilities out there, they really help a lot. And basically the key policymakers really are the key drivers for this. Yeah.
Excellent. Patrick asks, to what extent is the call center pivotal in the operations and understanding the emptying patterns, both geographically and in terms of seasons?
Yeah, I think for me, I look at the call center in the context of the ability for you to reach out to the customers, and also importantly for the customers to reach out to you in case of any issues, and just being able to provide a channel for communication for customers. So as I said earlier, we do have the mobile-based option, the USSD option that gives customers ability to, for example, text, and that gets through to a CRM, and somebody can be able to see what the issue is and be able to mobilize the necessary support. I must also say that recently we've also onboarded a call center, just again to be able to augment the level of service that we provide out there. So I think to the extent that you can be able to provide channels of communication for your customer base to reach out to you, I think that will be very useful, so that then you're able to ensure that you're providing the best possible service, and that if issues arise, then you have they can be able to have access to you, and you can be able to respond in a timely manner.
Nothing to add on that, Corey.
All right, so the next question comes from Anthony. Says, what advice would you give to local sanitation innovators who want to launch a CBS service in other locations around Lake Victoria, for example? Is a CBS startup viable with a small grant, say $10,000 US, or do you need a much larger investment to start up?
Interesting. I think the success of any CBS, I think, depends on the challenge that you'll want to address, right? And is there a need for the solution that you want to provide? So looking at, as we talked about, the users themselves, they need to, accept for it. And that really, the users mainly guide in terms of the cost that you want. Yes, you have an idea, but at the end of the day, is what will work at a certain condition, a certain context. And again, involving a lot of the stakeholders really will depend in terms of the costs and also the success of it.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with Cyrus. I think understanding your market is key because then that's what gives you context into what it is that you need to address, and also importantly, establishing or having partnerships with different entities at different levels, so that then you're able to mobilize whatever resources you need or support to be able to set up operations.
And then Teddy asks, does the pilot give you any indication of a reasonable return on investment?
Yeah, so I think, return on investment, especially in the sanitation space, that's a big question. I think starting off from the perspective that sanitation really is a public good, and it's really more of a government responsibility to provide. And so I would say the key focus, especially for CBS, is to identify like how do you achieve cost efficiencies for the service that you provide, and then I think that then becomes a big driver and even a kind of a selling point then when you're approaching different entities, be they funders or government, to be able to present this as a viable option. So I think that for me would be the starting point.
Yeah, totally agree with Joseph. And I think, yeah, for the pilot, it will be difficult for you to give the return on investment during the pilot phase. However, I think it will be able just to guide you on ways you can be able to improve. And I'll say even during this pilot phase, there's a lot of reference that you really have to make during this phase just to be able to really understand the actual cost, because costs vary, especially even during the operations time. So there's something that you need to focus during that point.
Thank you. All right. And then Amita asks, are there any studies or references to know more about CBS in varying climatic conditions, especially cold regions and hilly terrain? I might actually take this one since I know a little bit about it. There is a little bit of work that's been done. If you look in studies that have been done in Mongolia and specifically up in Alaska in Inuit communities. So there is some sort of history of analogous technologies being used in cold climates, very, very cold climates, actually. In hilly terrain, I would say the organization within the CBSA that's doing a lot in hilly terrain is Sanama in Peru. The communities around Lima are on some pretty steep hills. However, it is not a cold situation there. It's just a very dry situation. And then Enrico asks, do you have partnerships with organizations that use the final product and reintegrate the nutrients into the soil? To what extent is there an existing market for the final product, or does it have to be created with institutional support?
Yeah, I can take that. So for us, yes, we do have one of our final products as soil enriching organic fertilizer that we sell out there to farmers. I think right now we are past the phase where you talk about issues of acceptability and all. That's really something that people have already seen the impact in terms of improving soil conditions as well as productivity for products, and the demand, I would say, is pretty high now. That was not the case initially. There's really a lot of farmers education that went into it just to be able to bring in the aspect of acceptability. But I think from now we can speak to a market that's growing and being able to embrace the product as part of agricultural inputs and soil enrichment.
I'll mention more for us, our fuel, which is a non-carbonized fuel. Mostly, yes, we have partnership with a lot of institutions and companies who reuse these big boilers. So yes, these are part of, we have written agreement for the supplies, which really ensures the continuity and the sustainability of the entire system.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm cognizant of time now, so we're getting to the end. So I will make this the last question, and it's actually for you, Cyrus. It comes from Catherine, and the question is concerning CBS model in refugee camps, emergency situations. Considering the need for training WASH operators, would this be the main challenge for implementation in a refugee setting, And what advice could you give to organizations that want to implement CBS in emergencies?
Well, Catherine, I think training of operators is not the main challenge, right? As the emergency setting, just the way it is, there's a lot of competing items that need to be there, and also looking at how can you be able to operate CBS sustainably. Compare that the refugees don't have economic freedom per se. So a lot of looking at the CBS, then the specifically need that you need to address. And in this case, really looking at the availability of space, the rocky grounds, and just looking at the population, right? So key things to consider here is the sustainability aspect of this model, and looking at how can you be able to have a model that can be able to compete sustainably with what we consider as free provisions of like pit latrines and what is given to the refugees. So I think it's more about the system and the policies at the camp, which provide a lot of big challenges. But I'm happy because there's been change in terms of policy over time, and really looking at looking at introducing of cash-based incentive, whereby now having more refugees, more opportunity to be able to, have money in the pocket, and they can be able to choose kind of the sanitation they want, and looking at how can we be able now to make it more even sustainably at the refugee camp. And also maybe other option considering as mobile CBS, given that maybe the camp might not be, like a long-term plan for that particular area. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And I just want to thank both Cyrus and Joseph for being here and sharing their knowledge. It's been super helpful, and I really appreciate you both being here.